about what you could do with just 1 hour a day. 1 hour of sticking with your goal, 1 hour on purpose, 1 hour working on your meaningful project. Now, a lot of people write this off thinking like, oh, it's just an hour or it's not really going to do that much. But if you think about it, an hour a day is 7 hours a week, which is 28 hours over the course of the month. If you just think about whatever it is that you're wanting to work on, if you were 28 hours further along, where would you be? So that's what we're going to work on in this video. It's a very simple exercise. It'll just take 5 minutes and some sticky notes. So if we're just meeting, I'm Alexis, and on this channel we talk about how to be productive, how to manage your time, and most importantly, how to actually make progress on your meaningful goals. I sell the Potential Planner, which is all about envisioning your dream life and then breaking that down into tangible action. So I will have that linked in the description if you're interested in that. But let's get into it. So before I get into the sticky notes part of this exercise, there is one principle that I just want to briefly discuss, which is the time equals reality principle. So the time equals reality principle is just that. It's basically that since time and reality are the same thing, if you never assign your goals to time, you are never assigning them to reality. And because of entropy, there are hundreds of different ways your day could go. Someone could interrupt you, you could read a book, you could make dinner. I mean, there's hundreds of different possibilities. Only one of those possibilities is the ideal way that you want it to go, and it is ordered in such a way that you want all those things to fall into place. And so for that reason, we can't just leave things up to chance, because we leave things up to chance, there's hundreds of different ways the dice could roll, and it's not the way we want it to go. So it takes intentional life design, which is basically all of what goal setting is. The other issue that I see people really relying heavily on are habits. And while it's true that habits are the building block of everything we do, they're just that, a building block. Because if you think of a goal, I'll just pick losing weight as an example. Sometimes people might say, okay, I want to lose weight, so I'm going to develop the habit of going to the gym. But there are so many pieces within that habit strung together. It's not like you just go to the gym every day. Some people might say, oh, I want to go to the gym 3 days a week. And then what we don't realize is a lot of times there are hidden tasks within goals. So in the example of losing weight, there's probably a lot of eating tasks in there as well. And so people think, okay, well, I'm just going to eat healthy. I'm going to have the habit of eating healthy. But if you expand that task, the habit of eating healthy, there's maybe picking what meals you want, deciding what the boundaries of the plan is going to be. There's the actual grocery shopping, there's the actual cooking. And what I find that when a lot of people are creating task management systems for themselves, there are a lot of hidden tasks that they're not fully realizing are in there. And we need to set aside a time for all of those individual tasks. Now in this video, it's going to be all about deep, meaningful work. And this is part of the Starting Over series. So in the very first couple of videos, we outlined what is the thing you want to work on. I've helped people streamline the processes for writing books and creating music albums and starting YouTube channels, and using the planner, and these videos are all systems related to that. So what we're going to do now then is identify what are all those hidden tasks. So the first thing you're going to do is grab some sticky notes. And I want them to be sticky notes because I want them to be tactile, and I also want it to be physical and not digital, because your brain will compute more and it sees the way it can move things around when things are physical. This is like the basics of when I was a math teacher. It's make it physical and people will understand it a lot more. Even if they can see something, the fact that you make it 3D helps you think more creatively and understand it better. So step one is grab some sticky notes. Now for some people, we're gonna think of this on a weekly basis. For some people, you might think of this on a daily basis. Whatever level of time will things repeat? So what I mean by that is, for some people, if they have a goal of writing every day, maybe they just want to write 500 words every day, that habit is going to repeat on a daily basis, and it's the exact same thing. If you have a goal like losing weight, maybe on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, you want to go to the gym, maybe on Fridays, you want a meal plan, and then you want to cook every day. That process is going to repeat weekly. It's every week that once you get it dialed in, it'll be repeating. So I want you to think, at what level of time does it repeat? And for a lot of people, that's going to be a week. For me, filming YouTube videos, the process repeats on a weekly basis. So I'll use the example of me filming YouTube videos. So I need to pick the title, the idea. I need to rough edit the video, final edit the video, film the video, thumbnail, post it all in the back end, outline the video, including the hook. So now, just as a thought exercise to make sure there's not any hidden tasks still remaining, I want to think of each individual sticky note and see what is involved in there. And if there's anything significant that it's so big that I might consider its own separate task, I'm going to write a new sticky note. So for filming, part of that is actually determining what the visual is going to be. And so I might actually need to, if I'm going to be using a flip chart, I might need to actually make that visual ahead of time. And then I want you to go through and think of, is there any setup required for each sticky note? So for example, for filming, there's a lot of preparation needed, like getting ready. That's probably its own sticky note. And then also setting up the camera, the lights and everything. So then once you have all these sticky notes, we're gonna arrange them in a sequence, which needs to go first, which needs to go second. Like if I think about, I need to get ready before I film, I need to film before I edit. So I'm gonna go ahead and sequence these in a chronological order. So we've arranged them in a chronological sequence. And a lot of times when we think of time, we think of it as a line. We've got the beginning and we've got the end. But because we're gonna be iterating on this week after week after week, this line is actually more like a loop, and it loops and loops and loops. So the next step is to assign it to which day you want it to be. So when I was first starting, my mind was just like, oh, well, this is the beginning of the process, so I'll do that on Monday. I guess I'll do this Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And because of that thought process, when I first started, it put filming on Wednesdays. But that didn't work for me because I had an event on Wednesday evenings. And so it was part of this constant thing. So what I would encourage you to do is you don't have to put the beginning of the process on Monday and the end of the process on Friday. You can hop in whenever you want. And so for me, it was actually filming on Tuesday. And so I just took the title and outline, the beginning of the process, and I actually put it at the end and made it Friday. So you can kind of make that decision based on two things. One, which is the most difficult part of the process? And for me, filming takes the most motivation. And two, when do you have the most bandwidth and time to do that thing, and schedule everything around that. So I felt like I didn't want to do it at the beginning of the week because I like to have kind of a slow start, but I do want to have it toward the beginning so I get the most difficult thing done first, so it's kind of downhill momentum from there. So from there, you can assign the sticky notes to which day of the week you want to do them. So at this point, you should have assigned tasks to days. And the whole conceit of this video is, if you have an hour a day, can you change your life? And something that I think, especially with creative things, we need to have a benchmark for when are we done. So when I first started my YouTube channel, I was a math teacher and I needed time to work on this. And we'll talk about in the next video how to find time and when to do it. But I was teaching from 7 to 3 and I really wanted to get the creative work done first, my YouTube work done first before I went in. So I would work from 6 to 7 and I had basically something like this, but I was doing 2 videos per week. So it was basically all of these things times 2. So if I only wanted to work 5 hours a week, because it was just a side hustle at the time, and I was doing 2 videos a week, that meant it was only 2.5 hours per video. And I think a lot of people might say, like, how do you even shove all that in? Like, they're probably not even good. What's the point of that? But a lot of my best performing videos on my channel that have over hundreds of thousands of views were just made in 2.5 hours. And there were other videos during this time where I kind of broke my rules and I expanded the time and I spent hours and hours and hours. But this was, 5 years ago. And there were times when I killed myself, like pretty much like I was just, I gotta get this, I'm gonna make this perfect, I'm gonna make this perfect. I was giving 110%, but it was just to the point where like, it wasn't really fun. It was just like, really like white knuckling the thing. And sometimes those videos didn't do well. And not only did they not do well, I was really proud of them at the time, but now when I go back and look at them, I have the same opinion of them as the ones that I just tried like 50%. And so 5 years from now, your 50% and your 110% are gonna be the same to you. And the one is gonna like make you really like hate your life and you're gonna feel like you're putting so much work into it and it leads to stalling because of perfectionism. You might as well just put in less work. And so we need a benchmark for when we're done. And so my benchmark was, I need to make this thing and it needs to be done in an hour. And I'm not gonna allow myself to work overtime and I'm not gonna allow it to spill over into the next day because I've got these little deadlines that I'm working on every day. And if you spend just an hour a day, that adds up to 7 hours a week if you were doing 7-day weeks, which is 28 hours a month. Even if you only gave 20 minutes a day, that would be 10 hours at the end of the month. Where would you be if you had 10 more hours of work put into your draft or put into your music? I mean, there's a lot that you can do and I wouldn't underestimate just little chunks every day. So it's one thing to have this plan. You've assigned it to time, you made the plan, you made the schedule, but I think a lot of us have the experience like, okay, well, I planned this amazing thing for myself. I put it in the calendar, I've got it all scheduled, and then the next day you just don't do it. You just like kind of explicitly just disobey everything you said. You're like, I don't really feel like it. You just scroll on your phone or whatever. I've done that plenty of times. And so the question is, how do you actually do it? How do you follow through? Part of the challenge is getting rid of the vagueness, the nebulousness of projects, and this makes it a lot more specific. But push comes to shove, you wake up the next morning, how do you actually get yourself to do it? And that is what we're gonna talk about all about in the next video. So I'll have linked in the description the playlist of this whole starting over series. It's every couple days, a video coming out throughout December and the beginning of January, working on getting our meaningful projects done. I will also link the planner that I have that has you do this every single week. It's just the basics of weekly planning. So check that out in the description if you're interested, or click here. I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.